G'day Bomber fans, we have a belter of a game this week. It is massive. The struggling Bombers up against their fiercest rivals, St. Kilda. I don't know why this one isn't at the MCG, it would have been a sellout. In all reality though, this is simply a must-win game of footy. If we can't beat a bottom 4 team, we're done. It would be GG's on season 2024. It is our round 20 preview today, but before we get into it, some votes from the last game, our disappointing loss against Adelaide. Alrighty, votes, no real standouts. Durham and Langford both got 4. Merritt and Redmond got a couple each. Draper was a role player. Caddy got his first votes for the club as your role player. Dursmore wasn't far behind, and Nick Cox was less than 10 votes off earning 1 for his 3 goals as well. The overall tally, Merritt extends his lead by 2. Durham jumped into equal second. Langford jumped into into 6th. He isn't far off Mackay and Martin, who are still chasing that podium. Only 5 games to go. And also, guys, this is going to be the last time I show the tally until an end of season video, just to keep suspense at a high. Alrighty, Saturday afternoon or evening, I guess. Marvel Stadium, our not so fortress of a fortress. We're lining up against St. Kilda. It's a team lingering around the bottom of the top 8 against a team lingering around the top of the bottom 4. I would try and hype this game up, but honestly, it's a bit of a stinker. We did play out a close game earlier in the year when Stringer kicked the sealer on Easter Saturday, I think it was. We have a so-so record against the Saints. We won last year, won the last few at Marvel. They obviously beat us at the G last year. We're fresh of a deflating loss to the Crows. They are fresh of a belting to the Eagles. It could be an interesting game of footy. It will certainly not be anything like that Adelaide game. That was free-flowing footy with no real structure. It was a shootout. This is going to be slow, methodical. It's going to be 2 teams trying to prove they still have defensive capabilities. So let's talk about the Saints. What should we expect from them? Well, St. Kilda are known for being a pretty stingy team. Ross ball isn't fun to watch, but when it works, it gets results. Last year was case in point. Even this year, they are one of the harder teams to score against. They're in the top 4 for points against. Essendon are almost in the bottom 4 for points against. The Saints are defensive. They're very, very defensive. They don't like to concede at all. It means we're set for a low-scoring game of footy. And the thing about St. Kilda is that they are very good at playing footy the way they like to. I think they struggle from having a poor list, but manage to control games, even if it means not win them. So they could well be looking like the better team for most of the game, as they did in round 3 when we played them and beat them, but it doesn't mean they're going to win the match. On paper, their list is pretty stinky, but it doesn't mean they're just an easy beat, because they're not. They proved that when they beat Sydney a few weeks back. This isn't a horrible footy side. They don't get many wins, but they rarely embarrass themselves. I think we undoubtedly get some uncontested footy against St. Kilda, but it's what happens when the ball isn't in our possession that really matters. St. Kilda are a tough team with some really hard players. You think Durham and Caldwell and Merritt are hard at it. The Saints as a whole are just a more reliable team in terms of brute. Jack Steele, Jack Sinclair, Wood, Windhager, Zach Jones. There are some hard nuts, and it comes as no surprise to find out that the Saints average in the top 3 or 4 for ground ball gets, hard ball gets, and loose ball gets. We hover below the AFL average for those stats. It makes one-on-one contests around the ground important. There will be moments to win possession, and if we let them walk over us in those moments, we're in trouble. When the ball is in close and personal, they will have the upper hand. They are a horrible centre clearance team, the worst in the league, but that's because there is more space at centre bounces. For regular stoppages, they're actually much better than us on average each game. That makes it difficult because it's going to be low scoring. We won't be able to win stoppages much from centre bounces if there aren't many, but the Saints will definitely be content in allowing the ball to bubble in tight spaces if it means a ball up, because that will suit their team a lot more than it does for us. We need to equalise. That is all. We need to equalise on ground level, around the ground, in stoppages, and it goes a long way for us winning the game. I think for us to win, our forward setup just has to work. If we aren't linked up, then we won't score. It is going to be hard enough as it is to score against the Saints, but if we aren't making the most of opportunities, which is likely based on form, then we're screwed. Cole Langford will have to deal with Cal Wilkie all day, who is one of the very best one-on-one defenders in the league. I think after Jacob Wiedering, he's the most reliable out on his own against his direct matchup. So Langford will have it tough all day. Josh Battle's become a handy interceptor as well. Against a team like St. Kilda, you need to take the chances you get. They aren't a good team, but they still are a hard one to beat when they're playing well. You got guys like we need guys like Stringer or Langford to step up. The smalls, we need a presence on ground level, because right now we're relying on too few to get the job done. Do we bring in P.O.T.Y to make Wilkie or Battle accountable? Do we bring in Davey to replace Menzies, or I guess Guelphy's injured, just for some X factor? I usually wouldn't want Davey in over those two, but I feel like right now we're lacking unpredictability up forward. We are very predictable, very easy to defend against. St. Kilda will not be worried about playing us right now. They will know they can limit our scoring, so we have to be making them unsure about themselves somehow. I don't know what the answer is, but we need to start looking more dynamic and dangerous up there, and more connected from midfield to forward line with our entries. As hard as it will be for us to score, it could be a lot harder harder for them. No Max King is massive. They're already a low-scoring team, but it frees up our interceptors to help out each other more. Adelaide have a dangerous forward line. I don't feel the same about St Kilda. They're fresh off a big win against West Coast, but that's West Coast. The week before, they scored 39 against the Crows. They actually have the 4th least points per game in the comp, which makes sense for a bottom 4 team. We harp on about their defence because it is generally pretty good, but it doesn't mean a lot if they can't score the other way back, which they can't. So if they have one of the best defences in the league, it means they have one of the best forward lines because they're so far down the ladder. We shouldn't be conceding more than 80 against this team. That would be a worry, even if we were to win. Saints fans will agree, it's just the way they play. They're low scoring. They would much rather limit the amount of scoring the opponents do than score themselves. I think this makes Ben Mackay and Jordan Ridley really dangerous, though. Mackay's been an intercepting machine lately. Ridley's been pretty decent, but this week they don't need to be shutting down their direct opponents like they have been recently. This could bring them into the game in the air more, bring our back half intercepting into things, but also forward half intercepting. We should be able to lock the ball in our forward half and score if we A, apply good forward pressure that forces them into long kicks, and B, set up well enough to not allow their forwards to get a look on the wing. I like our tall wings. They are dangerous. 5 goals between Cox and Jones last week. That's a great output. They can rest forward. It's a good setup against a team like Adelaide who didn't have much of a presence there, but against St Kilda, I'm a little bit worried about how much they can spread us. Now, Liam Henry's not playing, which helps, but Mason Wood, Brad Hill, even Darcy Wilson, these are hard-running, smaller players who can definitely outwork Jones and Cox, especially if they're pushing hard forward. I'm worried that the Saints will be able to get numbers on ground level when the ball is an open play. This is why playing under the roof is a blessing for us, because Jones and Cox can rotate and outmark smaller wingmen. But if the Saints restrict our access to them, it brings the likes of Hill and Wood into the game, two quick, dangerous two-way runners. I think if we see one or both of these guys having a day out, we should be worried. Dersma can cover one. He is that natural-sized winger, but I'm worried about them exploiting our height on ground level. We're going to be a much taller team. If we can't be taking contested marks and using it to an advantage, we are just letting them gain the upper hand for no reason. I'm most worried about the ruck battle, and I don't know what the best way to go about it is for the team, because Rowan Marshall's excellent. He's one of the very best rucks in the comp. If it wasn't for Max Gawn, I'm sure I'd be talking about him as the best. He's not only great in stoppages, but just a workhorse around the ground. He had 26 disposals against West Coast. He had 20 and 48 hitouts the week before against Adelaide, and the week before that he kicked 2 goals against Sydney. This is a guy who can genuinely tear the game apart. I used to talk about danger players in these previews. Marshall is one of the biggest we've come up against this year. Do we stick thin with our dual ruck setup and try and at least win the hit-out battle with Goldie in the ruck, or do we just go with Draper on his own to at least give us mobility around the ground, take the L in the ruck and just give us more, options around the ground? Or this is where coaches win the big bucks, because I just don't know what the right move is. Marshall will destroy Draper one-on-one. I reckon it's a no contest, to be honest. Goldie will at least give us more for our mids when he plays, especially in stoppages, which is an important factor in the game. But playing Goldie and Draper gives us so little to do when they're both on the field together. I don't want to say Goldstein is a liability in open play, but it's not good. Do we bring back Wright so we at least have an option up forward? I don't know. The ruck battle could genuinely decide the game. A 3-vote Marshall game could bring bad news for Essendon. Draper and Goldie did manage to get on top of him a bit more last time we played them, but that was before we were so tall up forward, so I just don't know what the go is. I guess we'll see how it plays out with team selection on Thursday. Speaking of selection, there's a lot going on. We'll start with the Saints. They will be without wingman Liam Henry. He's out for the year now. It's the only forced change at the time of filming. I think the likely option is just going for Paddy Dow, who is great in the VFL and can act in a similar role. There are some other youngsters around, but I think they would like to win this game and won't change too much considering they smashed the Eagles and beat Sydney in the last 3 weeks. As for us, one forced change, it looks like. Matt Guelphy will not play after suffering a hamstring injury. We could either go like for like and bring Alwyn Davey Jr. in to give us some pressure in the forward half, or reward the good form of Ben Hobbs. But that move may be less likely if Darcy Parish is declared fit. I still think he is given another week, though. That is what Scott usually does. Peter Wright could return. Dyson Heppel could return. I could see Wright replacing Guelphy, to be honest. Give us more height under the roof. Or maybe he replaces Goldstein, who was poor against Adelaide. Heppel could replace Kelly to give us more leadership down back. Quite a few guys under the pump as well. Perkins, Menzies, Kelly. There's a lot to happen, lots to unfold. Let's go on to the prediction. Actually, before I get to the prediction, I just want to harp on a bit more, because this is just a must-win game. We have to rise to the occasion. Every game from now on is massive. Even a game against a bottom 4 team like St Kilda on a graveyard shift at Marvel is massive. The boys need to be up for the fight, which means the fans need to be up for the fight. I really don't like seeing fans flake when a team is losing. We need to make the Marvel Stadium a cauldron. I know it's a Saints home game, but we can fill out Marvel better than they can. We have a fan base, they don't. We just have to win this game. We cannot fall apart like we did in patches last week, or against Melbourne the week before, or against Geelong before that. We need to be consistent. We need to be tough. We need to grind out this season and leave nothing out there, because I'm seeing some boys play nice footy right now. Nice footy gets you a few wins, but it doesn't make you a feared team or get you consistency in a playing group. I don't know if the season is wasted or not yet, because even if it is, I'd just love for us to be showing intense effort like we showed earlier in the year. The Essendon edge is a meme now that we're on the cusp of missing finals, but why can't we bring it back and actually scare some opponents? I'd love nothing more than a big, comprehensive victory, and I'm sure Brad Scott is thinking the exact same thing right now. We need to start showing something, and that starts with the boys, but it also starts with our fans. So head out to the game if you aren't already, show some support. Alright, prediction, I definitely see room for a loss. We're playing really poor footy right now. That Crows game was horrible. I know a bunch of you will be picking a St. Kilda win. There's definitely room here for a loss. St. Kilda can restrict us. They play well against fragile teams, which is what we appear to be right now. I am going to predict Essendon to get the job done, just because I think we have to. There's more at stake for us. But then again, I said the same about this Adelaide game last week. If we lose this, it's season over. We need 3 wins from 5 games for finals. This has to be one of those wins. I think we win, but I'm not confident at all, which is sad. Essendon by 6 points. It won't be a blowout either way. I can only see this game being close, unfortunately. Let me know what you think down below. But that is all. As I said, get out to the game if you can. Show some support for the boys. It's unfortunately a big game for us. It really shouldn't be, but it is. Cheers for watching. Like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and go Bombers.